Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
This is a special holiday best-of presentation of Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner Ron Corser. Ron Corser and Associates are planning today for the potential of tomorrow.
Welcome into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement. Grand Rapids, your resource for a common sense approach to planning, brought to you by the team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners. With us today, we have founding partner, CFP Certified Financial Planner, Ron Corser. Always a pleasure to have Ron Corser's guidance and perspective here on the program, trying to clarify and uncomplicate the financial and the retirement planning world. A big task, Ron, but week after week, you seem up to it.
As one of the advertisements I love about, doing some sort of thing on the internet, we got this. So I'm in good shape. We're going to have a nice program today. Not that the other programs aren't, but we're going to talk about things that I find interesting. Even more interesting given the time of year, Christmas season. And then we're going to also, and Nolan is on board with this, my partner, we're going to kind of go into a special excerpt or part with Ed Slott. I'm an Ed Slott Master Elite Advisor. Who is Ed Slott? He's the 900-pound gorilla when it comes to financial planning in the IRA world. I've been part of his group since, 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. We have to get trained twice a year, have to be tested to make sure we understand what's going on. But here's the important thing that we realize is there is so much in this financial world that you need to understand. No one person can understand all of it. It's impossible. So what I tell people is that I don't have to know everything. Nolan, my partner, doesn't have to know everything. We just have to know people who do know everything. And that's why we're affiliated with Ed Slott. He, again, is the master elite guy who's always the go-to guy with business magazine, things like that when it comes to IRA things. So stay tuned to today's program, because the tail end of this, we'll have about a half-hour segment with Ed talking about things that are really important. And if anybody has any questions or wants to talk more about them, give us a call at our office number, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, or go to our website, www.cornerstone-rp.com. Now, I know some of you listen to us on the way to church because you tell me that. So you can always tune in to the whole broadcast later on, not to miss the Ed Slott part or any parts that I will cover here in the first half hour or so of this program.
Absolutely. And Ron, in fact, we've got a great archive of all the programs up and available on your YouTube channel, covering everything from saving more and doing more with your money, taking risks and answering questions, life insurance and annuities, avoiding financial surprises, creating a legacy. During the Halloween month, we were addressing some scary financial topics, 10 steps to a more prosperous 2022 and beyond, as well as all of the resources available on your website, cornerstone-rp.com. So you have literally covered the gamut for a guy who self-admittedly doesn't have to know it all. We've certainly covered a number of topics here where you've gone in depth in the financial world, and will continue to do so for the clients and then savers and investors throughout and across the Grand Rapids areas and beyond. And if you've got questions, ladies and gentlemen, do call Cornerstone Retirement Partners at that number, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. If you can, stick around for Ed Slott. He has been named by the Wall Street Journal as America's leading IRA expert, as Ron alluded to. He is the host of the PBS Special, the annual special fundraising event, one of the biggest for PBS each year, Retire Safe and Secure. And Ed basically gives the advice on that program of how to make the most of not only your money, but particularly money that you may want to donate to a charitable cause. And PBS always as a result, benefits and appreciates that. He's the author of the new Retirement Savings Time Bomb, talking about why your retirement savings may, in fact, be a big IOU to the IRS and how to maybe avoid some of that, as well as your complete retirement planning roadmap. The guy knows his tax stuff. So that's the end all of the gist of what you need to stick around for Ed Slott for. If you can't, go to the website page. Go to the website, cornerstone-rp.com. Go to YouTube. You can find the Ed Slott interview there. We'll get that up almost immediately after the airing and the broadcast of the program today. So you can find Cornerstone Retirement Partners by searching YouTube or the website directly, cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com. And Ron, in the first half of the program, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about holiday traditions, your gift buying habits, how you go about buying gifts, your methodologies, and then maybe a little bit about some of the people, some of the events that have influenced your view of money that you appreciate at most during the holiday period.
Yeah, the holiday season can be stressful. Everybody knows that. I've even experienced a time in my life where, through really poor planning, I ended up doing most of my shopping the afternoon of the 23rd of December and to the morning of the 24th. I vowed never again to do that. But it's stressful. It can be stressful. So these are non-financial rules to reduce the stress in your life, particularly when it comes to buying gifts. This is what I do. And I'm not saying you have to do it, but I find it makes it really easy for me when I do shopping, because I enjoy buying stuff for people. I enjoy buying stuff for my kids, especially for my grandkids. I love it. I like to buy stuff for my wife. It's not like we're extravagant and stuff. I just get a lot of satisfaction out of giving and gifting. So here's some rules that Ron Courser's rules for stress-free Christmas shopping. Number one, when it comes to buying toys for my grandchildren, I always buy toys that I would like to play with, things that excite me. I'm a great fan of tops. All my life, I have been absolutely fascinated, and I still am. My wife bought me 2 tops for Christmas last year, and I literally do play with them. I know I'm not supposed to at this stage in my life be that way, but I'm just fascinated by them. And I like airplanes, and I like toys that have motors to them, and you can drive cars all over around the furniture and things like that. So when it comes to buying toys for my grandchildren, I buy things that I would like because I think they would like them too. And I always err on the side of excitement when buying toys. I may buy them a pair of socks, but that's just a stocking stuffer. I'm not going to make socks or a shirt because I remember
you stick socks inside of the sock.
Yeah,
and that is
just something to do.
No Christmas is complete without underwear and socks.
Well, it's interesting. When my mom was alive, everybody has a tradition, right? So one of the traditions we had, my mom would always buy my brother and myself underwear. It was a tradition, and I look forward to it. And then when my mom died, oh gosh, long time ago, I remember looking at my wife that Christmas. I said, now who's going to buy me underwear? Bless my wife's heart. She buys it every year. I know it's coming. She wraps it up in a nice package, but I get shorts, I get T-shirts, and that allows me to recycle everything from the previous year. So that's one of the traditions we have in our house. Another tradition that we have is I wrap a lot of little gifts in tinfoil. Why do I do that? There have been times in my life when I've run out of paper. And so what do? So I do tinfoil, and my kids used to kind of laugh and joke about it. So now I always make sure I wrap some gifts in tinfoil, because one year I didn't do it. And my daughter said, Dad, where's the tinfoil? So that's another Courser family tradition.
I like that one. I may have to borrow that, Ron. I fancy myself as a pretty good wrapper. I actually take on that task for all of the gifts that aren't coming to me that I'm supposed to be surprised about. I usually am the one doing the wrapping, but I like the tinfoil idea. I may have to borrow that.
You got to buy the little tinfoil that's a foot long and in a big oven size. So what else do I buy for the kids and grandkids? Candy. And I happen to like candy. I mean, there's certain, we've talked in a program that Reese's peanut butter cups It's almost a spiritual experience when I have those. But I buy things like M&M peanut candies, Jelly Bellies. Those are the things I like. I give them to my kids, and interestingly, they like them too. They always roll their eyes when they get them. It's like, Dad, I'm not going to eat all this. But eventually they do eat it all, and they never tell me about it. So that's when it comes to toys and candy, that's how I do it. Always remember that there's, in all of us, no matter how old we are, there's a little kid buried inside of us. There really is. And you need to kind of touch base with that little kid to see what that little kid would like to do. I get a really big kick out of, when we're going to go see my grandson and my grandchildren down in Columbus, Ohio next week for our annual. Finally, we didn't do Christmas in 2020. We didn't do anything in 2020. But I like to just sit down with them and start to play with the toys that I bought them. It's a fun time as a grandparent. So that's part of what I do. I don't stress when it comes to buying gifts. I really don't. I just buy things that I like. And for my wife, I buy things that I think she would like, that make her look good, and that make her feel good. And when it comes to one other thing that I buy is sometimes I'll buy books. Now, I have kids that have a little bit of they're a little more liberal leaning politically. So there's some books I wouldn't buy them, but there's a lot, because they'll never read them, right? They'll never read them. But there are a lot of books I do buy, and they seem to appreciate it because they're basically not political in nature. They have a great story to tell. I remember a long time ago, there was one written by a news writer here in Detroit called My Tuesdays with Maury. And it was a great book. It was a great book, and I bought it for my son and daughter, and they actually read it.
Yeah.
And I know they read it because they told me they did. So those are kind of the things I will do for children and grandchildren and stuff. As for me, my wife always says, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I just tell her, "I need underwear." And then after that, I'm not sure. Do whatever you think you got to do.
I think I'm a hard person to buy gifts for as well, because generally I don't need a whole lot, and I don't ask for things that I don't need. And I think that alone drives my wife crazy throughout the holidays. How old are the grandkids, Ron?
Well, they're on the spectrum. They go from 16 down to 5.
Okay. All right. So for the tops and the planes, a few suggestions for you, if you would. Beyblades are kind of like the new version of tops. I know my son has just recently grown out of them. He's like 12, but they're basically tops on a zip cord that get going really fast, and then they battle each other. So that may be.
I got to find that.
No endorsements of products here, but that's one that my son really liked for a little while. And then on the planes / electronics side, drones are always a hit for my son. So they have become increasingly large and complex as he's gotten a little older, but he really enjoys them.
Yeah, my son got mad at me 2 Christmases ago because I bought some drones for my 2 granddaughters down in Columbus, and they eventually took out a light in a lamp. And I said, you know what? You just got to teach them to drive better. That's all, because I'm doing it again.
I bought one, and it was for my son. It was a gift. And on our Virgin very first takeoff, I'm trying to pilot it because I'm telling him I'll figure it out for you. And that thing just kept rising and rising and rising and sailed off into the sunset over the tree line, never to be seen again. I had to go buy another one for him.
I understand.
to calm him.
Yeah. So have fun. Here's the bottom line. Have fun doing what you want. Don't stress. Just have fun and go forward from there. You asked me too one time, what are the things that maybe have touched me in this business of almost 27 years and things, and where did I learn what I learned? Like most advisors, if you stay in this business long enough, you learn from both your successes and your failures, and everybody has them. So it's always a question of what did you learn, what will you avoid next time, or what can you avoid, or where was the error in your thinking, or where was the interesting aspect that you found that had an impact on people. So who's had an impact on me? You asked me that. the older I get, the smarter my mom gets. It's the most amazing thing. And I remember a long time ago when interest rates were up there in that 14, 15, 16% rate. She called me one time and actually she said, son, you're never going to believe it. I got a 5-year CD that paid 14% and they gave me a toaster at the bank. And I kind of laughed. I said, Mom, that's good. But inflation is about 17% right now. She said, I don't care about that stupid inflation. I got a 5-year CD, paid me a bunch of money, gave me a toaster. And then about 2 years later, this whole thing turned around. Inflation came down and I thought, man, why didn't I do that? You know, what's wrong with me? But she taught me that, you know, there's a lot of ways to have your life savings grow. And what my mom always did is she tried to make her life savings grow. And she didn't have a lot of money. When she died with about $80,000, but she had no debt, pension. They worked at GM all their life, so they were doing okay. But she taught me that you can have your money grow if you just do it in a way that you're comfortable with, that makes sense to you. And that's something that I think everybody needs to hold on to. It's not what the market says. It's not what other people say. It's not what your golfing buddies tell you. It's what makes sense for you. What makes sense for you? It's nothing wrong with going for the gusto, going all in. Go down to the casino, put it on 14 red, let it rip. It'll be different this time. Or bear it in a 3-pound coffee can, put it in your backyard. 5 years later, you go back, it's still there. But what's the real risk? Sometime between now and that 5 years, you beat some kind of dementia issue and you forget where you buried it. So it's really important to do investing based on what kind of comfort level you have. And the other thing my mom taught me is get out of debt. She was a depression baby. And she was one of those that actually went hungry. She was raised in a first generation Hungarian coal miner family. And at times she talks about, when you listen to them, it's really amazing. It's something that's lost, I think, in our society as we listen to our parents or great grandparents if they're still alive. But my mom used to talk about eating an onion sandwich, and that's all she had to eat. And whenever she'd get together with her sisters, they would talk about those experiences, and eventually they would go from laughter to sadness to crying because it was painful. But she taught me about debt. She always said, son, debt is a terrible thing. And I remember when she finally paid off the mortgage, 30-year mortgage, $141.12 a month. And I still kept that mortgage as a kind of a reminder of my mom. We had a great celebration. She was debt-free. And she impressed that upon me about how terrible and deadly debt can be for people. So those are the things I think that my mom took time to embed in me. And the other things that have made an impact on me, and they've impacted the way we give advice at our firm, is we went through 2 great financial debacles. One was in 2000, 2002, where the markets were supposed to be different this time. And they got cut in half. And a lot of people were really harmed. And the other one was 2008, where almost the whole world system went up in flames. But every one of those times, there was a great run up in the market. And everything was going to be different this time. It's always going to be different until it isn't. And I tell people, when you hear people start to say, it's different, it's going to be okay, it's going to be all right, it's different, be wary, because we've gone through those periods before. So at times, perhaps as an advisor, I have erred on the side of being a bit conservative. Those are just the experiences I have and the way I perceive things along the way. So those are the things that made a big difference in my life. And the other part is I've met some people that have been harmed by those 2002, 2008 experiences. Some of whom their whole retirement plan was destroyed. And my heart went out to them when I listened to them. I really did. And so I think, all right, as an advisor, what is it I can do to help people? I think one of the greatest things we do here at our firm is we help bring sanity into the financial planning. I don't ever believe that the market always goes up. On a long timeline, over 100 years, it has. But man, there's been some times in between where it's just been devastating. So the idea that the market's always going to go up 7% and that's what you should plan on, that's a really scary planning piece of information. And so I try to help people understand that the real key to successful retirement planning, investment planning, is something we call here in our firm risk-adjusted return. You can go, I joke about it, you can go to the casino, put it on 14 red. Actually, the best chances I've been told you have is playing blackjack. You got a 47% chance of winning. But think about this. If you stay at the casino at the blackjack table long enough with all your money, you will lose everything. So it's really about risk-adjusted return as opposed to going for the gusto. And the problem comes in is when, and I've got a couple good buddies and they're clients and they always shoot golf with somebody. And they always come back and say, well, my guy said he just made 8,900% on this thing. Why didn't you tell me about it? And I said, tell me more. He said, well, I don't know. He just told me that. So I always tell people, be very careful what you hear with your friends and family. Everybody always talks about all the good stuff in investing. They rarely talk about the setbacks. So those are some of the things that have impacted us here at the firm. Again, it's all about, for us, risk-adjusted return. It's about building a comprehensive, in-depth income plan and a spending plan. In our industry, everything is about the lump sum. You can go to anybody's website, ours too. You put in all your information, what you need when you retire, and you need $2 million. There's not that many people who have $2 million. What you really need is a plan that will give you the income you need every month to pay all your bills, have some money left over to enjoy life, to maintain your lifestyle. That's the most important part of retirement planning. How do you create an income plan in retirement that'll give you the income you need to hold on and maintain your lifestyle, no matter what, good markets, bad markets. So those are just some of the things that have gone on in my head, in my mind, in our business over the last 27 years or so.
Well, that's a big one, Ron. And in fact, you've had lists that you've made available throughout the course of this program, throughout the years. And one of them was the signs of a solid financial plan. I recall that one. And can you justify why you're not worried about your financial future? That was kind of the culmination, the last one on there. And not many people can, but it's because of several of the other ones. Do you have a written income plan and income allocation for retirement? That is one of the big components that will eventually help lead to you not being concerned financially about your financial future. But studies have shown, and your experience, you have talked about, not a lot of people out there have that written plan for order of operations, how and when to tap into certain accounts and sources and streams of income to efficiently as possible create the total retirement income that they need. And you're alluding to that here again, the importance of having that plan in place.
It is critically important if you think about it. Everybody knows how to go to work, save money, put away money for the future, pay their bills, try to get out of debt. Most people understand that.
If they want to.
If they want to. Yeah. The other part is, going into retirement, nobody's ever experienced retirement before they go into retirement. That sounds kind of goofy to say, but it's a whole new ballgame. Now you have this piece of money, this bucket full of money, and all of a sudden you have to make it last forever and give you everything you need to maintain your lifestyle. How do you do that? That's where we do our best work. It really is, because we can sit down and listen to people talk about what their aspirations are, what their goals are, how they view this thing called retirement, what they want to do when it comes to taking care of grandchildren, legacy, having fun, making sure they don't run out of money, all those things. We're really good at listening to people, not saying, okay, here's the plan, one size fits all, because everybody's created differently by the Creator, God. So how can you create one plan that fits everybody? So I tell people a couple things. When it comes to, for example, we always talk about Social Security. When's the best time to take it? Tell me what you need in terms of income. Tell me about your health. These are a couple questions. What should I do about my IRA? When do I take money out of it? What about the tax issue in that? Here's another one. If we have some time, what about converting some of that money in your IRA that's going to be taxed forever and maybe worse going down the road? Why not create a Roth IRA? Gives you some tax-free money.
Yeah, well,
so those are just some of the ideas that we share with people to try to ultimately come to the point where we create this income plan in retirement that gives them all the income they need. And it's sustainable, it's workable, and it's not stupid. It's not based on some goofy, well, if the market goes up 8% a year, you're going to be fine. But if it doesn't, you're going to be messed up. It's not based on that. It's based on, let's put this into rock solid cement and then go forward from there.
I think Ed Slott will probably share some guidance and perspective on that Roth conversion strategy. That's kind of his area where he talks about how to minimize taxes, keep as much of your money over your lifetime as possible. Certainly something that Ron Courser can speak with you and on an individual level, because each plan is unique and specific and individual, help you identify the strategies that are going to allow you to achieve that to the fullest potential. And if you'd like to design that income plan, if you've got questions that have been on your mind, pick up the phone and give Ron a call. And I think you're right, Ron. It sort of reminded me of like a Yogi Berra type of saying, you haven't done it until you do it. Nobody's gone through retirement until they have. And that's why, unfortunately, people make mistakes. Retirement's not the time that we want to learn from our own mistakes. That's what a smart person does. We sort of need to be a retirement planning genius. That's why having an advisor, having a relationship with an advisor is such a benefit, because they have seen it many times over. They have helped others through it. They have studied it. It has been their day-to-day activity, helping people make that transition to retirement, as the team at Cornerstone Retirement Partners have done. Certified financial planner Ron Courser, the founding partner there, and the team, Nolan Gosley and wife Nancy Courser, helping people from both the health and the wealth side of things in their planning. The team there is available to you, your resource, ladies and gentlemen. Pick up the phone, give them a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. You can go online to the YouTube page, watch previous editions of the program, as you can do with this program. If you're only going to be able to catch half of it, I encourage you to do that, because we do have a very special guest, Ed Slott, coming up after the break. You'll be able to catch the full program there, or even just watch the half with Ed Slott. You can certainly pick up some great information doing that. You can go to the website, cornerstone-rp.com, cornerstone-rp.com, and listen to previous editions of the program there, as well as request or download copies of all of the resources that Ron makes available throughout the course of this program. But the real value, ladies and gentlemen, is being able to get a custom designed, individual specific plan, a course for your retirement. And you can do so by starting with that phone call now, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581, for the time and the work that Ron and the team will put into it. That type of planning could easily be valued at $1,000 to several thousands of dollars. They waive all fees that would be associated with the planning, design, and the strategy session for listeners to this program, for viewers of this podcast. So all you need to do, take action now. Pick up the phone, give a call, 616-301-2581. That's 616-301-2581. Don't go anywhere. Second half of the program is going to be action-packed with lots of fantastic information with our special guest, Ed Slott, when we come back after the break here on Your Course to Retirement with certified financial planner, founder of Cornerstone Retirement Partners, Ron Courser, here in just a moment.
You're listening to a special Holiday Best Of presentation of Your Course to Retirement. Visit roncourser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement. You're listening to a special Holiday Best Of presentation of Your Course to Retirement.
And welcome back into the program. This is Your Course to Retirement with Grand Rapids Certified Financial Planner, CFP, Ron Courser, founding partner, They're at Cornerstone Retirement Partners, your resource, ladies and gentlemen, for a common sense approach to planning, help with your financial, your investment, and your retirement planning and strategies. They are there for you as a resource. 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. And Ron, I don't want to be too delayed because we've got a very special guest who is joining us on the program. Someone you know very well. You have an affiliation with Ed Slott. He has been named by the Wall Street Journal as America's leading IRA expert. And if you would, for just a moment before we bring Ed on, can you talk a little bit about Ed, the value of that relationship that you have with him, and why you think this interview is going to be something of value to most savers and investors?
Yeah, in a simplest form, Ed Slott is one of those guys who said, you can create an IRA account with about 3 sheets of paper. But the IRA rules in terms of how you manage an IRA, the tax issues are called, what you can legally or not legally do to them, it's about a 3-inch phone book in terms of rules and regulations. It's a real minefield in and of itself. So I got to know Ed a long time ago, became affiliated with him. He forces us, and it's fun, but he does force us to go to live active training twice a year. We are tested on the information, so it's not something that's easily done. Right now, I think we're the only Ed Slott Master Lead Advisor in West Michigan, and we're proud of that affiliation. And it's something that we use to help clients. That's the reason I'm affiliated with him. That's the reason I rely on him, because he does provide information in terms of how do you deal with IRAs, how do you deal with some 401k issues, what's the best way to pass on money to the children and grandchildren. Those are really important issues that you deal with when you're helping people with their financial retirement plan. And so Ed is an incredible resource for us. I encourage everybody to kind of get a pad and paper if you can, listening to Ed, take some notes because he makes great sense. And if it's of interest to you and you have questions, please give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. I'll tell you what a great relationship it is. There have actually been times when I've called Ed Slott's organization in New York and on behalf of a client, and we're doing a conference call, and Ed has actually picked up the phone and talked to us. It's kind of like, wow, we're with the big guy right now. But that's the kind of organization he has. It's a very service-oriented, helpful organization, and we rely on him to help us help our clients. So again, when you hear what he's talking about, if it makes sense to you, you want to talk more, give us a call, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581.
That number again, 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. When it comes to tax expertise, Ed Slott is second to none, been named by the Wall Street Journal as America's leading IRA expert, can sort of serve as a back office there for Ron Corser and for the team from Cornerstone Retirement Partners when financial and tax planning combined. And that is basically, essentially, with every financial recommendation or move. Ed Slott is the author of several best-selling books, The New Retirement Savings Time Bomb, Your Complete Retirement Planning Roadmap. He's the host of the PBS special, Retire Safe and Secure. And so we are very privileged now to welcome on Ed Slott. And it has been a while since we joined with Ed. So Ed, welcome back to the program.
Well, thanks for having me back. You just told me it's been 4 years. So I guess every election cycle we do this.
Yeah, well, a lot's changed in 4 years. The administration in the office, as well as in actual tax law and code. So a lot to catch up on here, Ed. And Ed, we all bemoan taxes. Why do you feel that the majority of Americans need to be thinking about taxes and planning proactively right now?
Well, because most people don't realize it, but the money they're saving in their IRA and 401k, I hate to break it to you, is not really their money. A lot of it is owned already by Uncle Sam. I always tell groups that, your IRA is a joint account with IRS. They're a partner on your account. maybe it's time for a divorce on that, because the longer it goes, the worse it gets. That IRA, a 401k, and this is something that I know advisors know, but as I travel around the country and speak to consumers, many consumers don't know it. It seems so simple, the difference between tax deferred and tax free. And when I explain it to them, I usually say something: tax deferred means you won't pay taxes on that money yet. It's a little word, 3 letters, but it has a big impact. As opposed to tax-free, you'll never pay taxes on that money. But the problem is, and why you need to address tax planning, most people have most of their retirement savings in tax-deferred accounts, money that has not yet been taxed, like IRAs and 401ks and 403bs. They are a sitting duck for future higher taxes, and most people do nothing about them. I love clients used to come in and show me their statements. I said, what are you looking at? That's not your money. This is temporarily on your letterhead. You're not keeping any of that. And they can't understand it, because even now they're making money in the market, hand over fist like everybody. And I said, oh, you're doing a great job. Maybe you'll get a thank you from Uncle Sam. He is a partner. You're doing great for him.
Yeah, those 401ks and those IRA balances looking fantastic, but the IRS is part owner in those accounts. So, Ed, as opposed to 10 or 15 years ago, do you think that there's been a big paradigm shift in the mentality and the way that we should be saving for retirement?
I think people are more aware because Roths have become more popular, and especially Roth 401ks at work. When they first came out, not a lot of companies signed on, but lots of companies have them now. And I think word is getting out, maybe through people like me and you and other people out there, saying, the old way of loading up in an IRA and a 401k, you're just building a savings account for Uncle Sam at some point. Maybe you want to diversify your tax risk, what I call tax risk diversification, and over time do a series of maybe smaller annual conversions. So over time, you take down that growing, snowballing debt in your IRA and build up tax-free, so you have more tax-free money available when you'll need it most in retirement. When I speak to consumer groups, I say, in retirement, that's not the time to get hit with sticker shock when you realize tax rates have gone up to 50%. And this is the time to do the planning. You want tax-free income in retirement if you can have it, and you can.
Well, let's back up for a moment, Ed. We are in historically low tax rates and brackets right now. Why does that make this an advantageous time to consider Roth contributions or Roth conversions?
Well, contributions are okay, but the big money's in conversions. Contributions are limited, 6,000-7,000 a year or so. It helps, but the big money's in conversions, because the fundamental principle of all good tax planning is to, and this sounds simple, but it really works, is to always pay taxes at the lowest rates. Sort of like with stocks, where they say buy low and sell high. Now, I didn't make that one up, but that's a good one too. Write that down. Buy low, sell high. It's the same thing. The old comedian, I always quote him because Henny Youngman, he had the great one-liners from the 50s and 60s. He said, I'm putting all my money into taxes, the only thing sure to go up. He was right. It was funny when he said it. He didn't realize how right on the nose he was. This is a bet on tax rates. And the more money you accumulate in IRAs or 401ks, the greater the odds your bet will pay off with a Roth conversion. And the bet is that rates will be higher when you'll be taking the money out in retirement or passing it on to heirs after death. So you want to look at it while rates are low, even if that means paying a tax now when you normally wouldn't have to. Some people just can't get past writing the check when they could say, but I'll put this off to another day. And that's when I have to tell them the problem doesn't go away. It's like this sign my dentist has in our office. She says, ignore your teeth and they'll go away. It's the same thing here. If you ignore it, yes, it's going to be eaten away, eroded by future higher taxes. This is one of the reasons I love the Roth. It removes the worry, the fear, the anxiety, the risk of what future higher taxes could do to your standard of living in retirement. Look at the rates. As you said, Peter, we're in the lowest rates most people will ever see. But even when you tell people that, as you correctly stated, you have a lot of people, consumers, that say, well, when I'm in retirement, I'll be in a lower bracket. I'm finding that's absolutely not the case. I've seen it for years with my own clients. They'll come in, as a tax preparer, not anymore. I sort of gave most of that up, my CPA practice, after about 40 years or so of that. But I would see people and they would question it themselves. They'd come in for their taxes. They say, I'm retired. How can it be my income's higher than my best working years? Because that IRA grew and grew and grew. And at 72, which is the current age now, you're forced to take that money down and pay tax. So those RMDs, required minimum distributions, can actually bump up your bracket and your marginal rate, the rate you pay on the next dollar of income. And it adds to income. Even though you don't need the income, you're forced to take it. And that throws off that myth, I would call it, that you'll be in a lower bracket in retirement.
And we often talk on the program about how paying less in taxes is the equivalent of getting higher returns on your investment, but typically carries far less risk.
Right. You can make a fortune in good tax planning. But you know what? Most people, like I said, don't want to look at that. They don't want to pay a tax up front. It goes against the grain of everybody. Why would I write a check when I could keep deferring? Because every day you keep deferring, you're losing more money. You're losing purchasing power based on future rates. Plus, we have the Secure Act, which means even if you're okay during your working or during your lifetime, beneficiaries may be in their own highest bracket, and they may have to pull it all out within 10 years, losing a lot of that to unnecessary and excessive taxes that can be planned for now.
Once again, we are talking with America's leading IRA expert, Ed Slott. And Ed, it has been a while since we caught up. Some things have changed. Other things are being proposed to change a lot. But let's talk about law already on the book for just a moment. The Secure Act passed in 2020. A lot of people had done IRA planning prior to the passage of the Secure Act. What do they need to understand about how this changed the rules on their IRA and now maybe revise those plans?
Right. After 40 years of studying tax law, I noticed one constant. Whenever Congress names a tax law, you can almost always bet that whatever they name it, it will do exactly the opposite. So when I saw a tax act called the Secure Act, my first reaction is, hold on to your wallets. And sure enough, as you said, Pete, they upended over 20, 30 years of established tax law that people relied on for their estate plans, for leaving their IRA money or 401k money to their children and grandchildren. The big change was Congress eliminated something we've called the stretch IRA, the ability for a beneficiary when they inherit to stretch or extend distributions out over their life expectancy, 30, 40, 50, 80 years for a one-year-old. Congress felt IRAs and other retirement accounts, they should only be used for retirement. No more of this big tax deferral, stretch IRA. We're going to limit most non-spouse beneficiaries to a 10-year period. So all of those accumulated funds will be taxed in a tighter window, bunched into 10 years. Beneficiaries will lose big chunks of that. And remember, Congress can always change existing tax law. As CPAs, we have this old saying, tax law is written in pencil. So you have to plan with what you have now, low rates, to take advantage of this. You have to look for alternatives to keep more of your hard-earned money. And you'll need an advisor that knows this area, that has specialized knowledge in IRA planning. I'm finding that's a problem.
Indeed.
Lots of financial advisors can help you make money. But when it comes to doing tax planning, like I do a lot of these programs, as you know, for advisors. And then during the pandemic, I did a lot of these just like this virtual. I have a few coming up today after this. And and especially in a lot of these big financial institutions or financial advisor companies, they always warn me, do not talk about tax planning. It's like kryptonite. You can't say tax planning. We don't do tax planning. That's someone else's job. Well, if you're not doing tax planning, you better hand it off to somebody who is, because that's where all the money is. That's where you can do the best job for your client on the back end.
Well, I do want to take a moment, Ed, because proactive advisors can actually take specialized training, become a member of your team affiliated with you and your team. You essentially serve as their back office for them in a large part of the tax planning aspect.
Well, we've been doing training for advisors for well over 20 years, probably more like 30. And we run our 2-day programs. You can look them up at online, IRAhelp.com. I see you have it on your screen behind you. These are our 2-day foundational fundamentals program, 2 solid days. They walk away with a 400+ page manual. Matter of fact, we just finished one. Here's what this manual looks like. There's a visual. This is my copy with my own speaker notes on here. Me and my team of IRA experts, over 400 pages in 2 days, covering everything. We have this section 25 IRA rules you need to know. This is based on all the mistakes I've seen over 30 years, the biggest ones made mainly by advisors who didn't know the rules. We cover that. We cover trusts. All those rules changed after the Secure Act. Even the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, you go before that. We talked about Roth IRAs, remember? But you have to be careful with Roth IRAs. Yes, I'm a big fan, but an advisor has to be very careful before they encourage or they advise on a Roth conversion. Why? Because one of the big changes in the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, Roth conversions were made permanent, no do-overs. You have to get it right the first time. So you might want to work with a CPA or other tax advisors so you have a good projection of what the tax might be. Because as situations change, what's going to happen? The client will still be stuck with that tax bill. And that shouldn't deter you from converting. You should just do converting with planning in mind, hopefully to stay in the lower bracket. So we do this 2-day training. We go through everything, rollover options, every possible topic you can think of. And we go at I should say, people that know my programs, at a brisk pace to get through 400 pages in 2 days. But then we even have a more intense, a more advanced training program. That's the one I think you're talking about. It's called Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. And that's for advisors that really want to dig in and get specialized knowledge. So the first thing, you have to go through this 2-day program to qualify for that. But then we have our elite group, and that's where you have access among the many other benefits of the membership. It's not like you go to a seminar. We're with you. It's a years long. Some people have been in our group, many of them over 15 years, advisors studying this. Matter of fact, we just had meetings virtually this time again a couple of weeks ago. And even our seasoned members over 15 years were saying things, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Oh, right. Your wheels start turning. And they have access to us with Q&A. They're a member of a group. And these are the advisors that are bringing in the largest accounts because they can deal with clients with more confidence, the demeanor, just the way they talk to people, knowing they have the answers after a client accumulates money. To me, that's just the first half of the game. But the average advisor stops there because that's how they were trained. They were trained to make people money. Who can argue with that?
No, I will say this, though, Ed. I think every financial recommendation does have some tax implications that are going to be involved. So it's better as an investor, as a saver, being proactive to deal with somebody who does have some amount of specialized training on the tax implications and consequences as well. Kind of circling back to that Secure Act, Ed, does the end of the stretch IRA provision amount to basically no more than a de facto windfall death tax for the IRS?
In some cases, but there are ways around it too. That's where good planning can be done. Congress is always a few steps behind, luckily for us. So all they did with the Secure Act, I think, is incentivize all of us to do the better planning that we should have been doing all along. So now we know Congress doesn't like IRAs for wealth transfer and estate planning purposes. All right, we'll exchange what Congress now has downgraded IRAs and 401ks as estate planning assets. We'll exchange them for better assets, maybe Roth IRAs, maybe permanent whole life insurance. And I don't sell insurance. But to me, that may be a way better plan for certain clients to take down some of that IRA money, like we talked about with a Roth, put it into an insurance policy and leave that to the beneficiaries where they don't have to worry about the 10-year rule about RMDs or even taxes, because that will be income tax free. And the client can find that with life insurance, especially if they want more control, they can use that for a trust. It works much better. Even before the Secure Act, the life insurance plan worked much better than an IRA going into a trust.
Well, you mentioned control. And what I find that most savers and investors want is larger inheritances, more control, and less tax.
Where'd you learn that from?
Yeah, those are three things that almost every client at the root of it, they want to achieve those things. So because of that, a lot of clients prior to the Secure Act named trusts as beneficiaries of their IRA or maybe created IRA trusts. Why do those individuals specifically need to revisit those plans now?
Well, yeah, most of those plans won't work. I recommended those plans years before the Secure Act. And I said, well, the client would say, matter of fact, I have that in my book. The new retirement savings time bomb. I have larger inheritances, more control, less tax is my mantra, because every client for, like I said, 40 years, it always came down to how do I get those things? So I told them, now I tell them, well, I tell advisors to tell their clients. I don't have that many clients of my own. It's funny, when I was in my 30s, all my clients were in my 60s. Now I'm in my 60s, they're all dead. Or the ones that are hanging on, they call me every now and then. They're in their 90s just to call and kibitz and talk and stuff like that. But when we set up a trust as a beneficiary, we often did it because a client had $1 million, $2 million, $3 million in an IRA, and they would all say the same thing. It took me a long time to earn this money. I want my kids to get it. I even want my grandkids to get it, but I don't want them blowing it. It took me too long to earn it. I'm worried about the way they handle money. I'm worried about bad marriages, divorce, remarriage, bankruptcy, lawsuit, other problems, people preying on them now online. I want post-death control. So we would name a trust. And before the Secure Act, you could have a conduit trust. They could get post-death control. The kids would only get like little crumbs out of the trust, the RMDs. But there are no more RMDs. These trusts will no longer work to achieve those objectives. In fact, it has the exact opposite effect. After 10 years, everything the client wanted would be the opposite. The client wanted post-death control and lower tax and larger inheritances. What's going to happen if they don't update their plans at the end of 10 years, the very kids they said, I don't want them getting their hands on big money, all of a sudden they'll have a $10 million payout. Larger taxes, there's no control because it goes right through the trust. Now, you can keep it in the trust with some of the trusts, but then you pay tax at trust rates. That's why I say IRAs, especially large IRAs, are not a good estate planning asset anymore. That's exactly what Congress intended. You should look for things like Roth IRAs and life insurance. For the large IRAs, the life insurance solution really does it. And it really just comes down to changing the vehicle. Yes, the IRA used to be a great vehicle to use, but thanks to Congress, that vehicle, the jalopy, has pooped out. It's time to change vehicles, upgrade to a limo, a life insurance limo. The client doesn't care what vehicle will get them there. They just want those three things: larger inheritances, more control, less tax. Where do I sign?
Ed Slott, he is the host of Retire Safe and Secure on PBS, and we are talking with him about proactive tax planning and maneuvers. And Ed, again, law already on the books. Let's talk about these tax rate and bracket changes that will occur in 2026. Why does that make right now a fantastic window of opportunity to do this proactive planning? What are the consequences if we wait?
Well, now we know what it costs. We have, definiteness. We know what the rates are. You can look them up. You know what something costs. Everybody likes to know what something costs. Who walks into a store and says, I'll have this, that. Do you want to know the price? Nah, don't worry. You can tell me 10 years later what the price will be. Nobody does that. They want to know what it costs. And there is a cost to moving, I always like to say, from accounts that are forever taxed to accounts that are never taxed, tax deferred to tax free. There's a cost. But if you can reduce that cost by taking advantage of known lowest rates in history, you should do it now. We don't know what the future is going to be, but we do know the biggest obstacle, the biggest threat to your retirement savings is a four-letter word. Nope, it's not kids. Everybody thinks that. No, that's a lousy investment. Everybody knows that. It used to be the American dream was owning your own home. Now it's getting the kids out of it. No, the four-letter word I'm talking about is math, M-A-T-H. Look at the growing deficits and debts. At some point, these bills are going to have to be paid off. And all Congress talks about is taxing billionaires. Well, that's not going to work. There's very few of them anyway, and they're going to be 10 miles ahead of you by the time any law gets in. So who's going to be left holding the bag? The low-hanging fruit. Everybody that didn't do the kind of planning we're talking about may be at risk, at high risk of future higher rates eating into their lifestyle in retirement.
Well, we've heard a lot about proposed changes to certain tax laws, especially involving IRAs. With the Build Back Better proposals and the infrastructure and spending bill, a lot of the language included there actually has to do with changes to IRAs, required minimum distributions. How many, Ed, do you see this actually potentially affecting?
Well, most of these changes are extreme, and I don't think you'll see them that quickly. But Congress has tipped their hands. You know where they're going. They look at those IRAs, those tax deferred accounts, as a big, juicy steak. I keep saying low hanging fruit, easy to get to, because that's the deal we all made with the government. We got a tax deduction up front, but the deal was when we take it out, we have to pay tax at the prevailing rates. I don't think you'll see rates go lower, so the bet will pay off. I believe the bet will pay off that tax rates, if you pay something now at lower rates, you'll be in a much better situation in retirement and even for your heirs beyond that. If rates go up, you made the right call.
Well, so much to get to in so little time, Ed. I do want to change subjects here. We generally broadcast on a lot of stations and in avenues where we have charitably inclined individuals listening. Those that are tithing to their church, a big one. I know that there are special provisions where we can gift some of our IRA and essentially have that truly tax-free money. Can you talk about the QCD and maybe what you have coined as the mega QCD opportunity that's available as kind of a this year only one-time deal?
All right, let's talk about the QCD, Qualified Charitable Distributions, one of the best provisions ever created for my money. And the reason is most people are charitably inclined. In fact, I would say 100% of the people, based on my 40 years experience of doing taxes. When I was doing returns, if I would ask somebody, oh, did you give to charity? Oh, yeah. Nobody ever said no. Nobody. Now, maybe they didn't want to say no, but according to my unofficial survey, 100 out of 100 people give to charity. And I think for pretty much that's the case. But the problem is, since the changes a few years ago in the tax law, most people don't think about it, but they're getting absolutely no tax benefit from the gifts they're making. They're getting personal enjoyment and fulfillment, but no tax benefit. Why not have Uncle Sam kick in? Well, you can do that with now QCDs, Qualified Charitable Distributions. First, if you're charitably inclined, IRAs are the best, absolute best assets to give to charity. They're loaded, infested, not invested, infested with taxes. That's the kind of stuff you want to give to charity because they don't pay taxes. They don't care. They'll get you used, beat up IRA. They don't care. That's full value for them. So that's the money you want to give. You want to save the other money for your family where they might get a step up in basis and other advantages, not the IRA money. So this is a provision that allows people who are not getting any benefit. And when I said they're not getting any tax benefit, because most people no longer itemize their deductions. They take the new higher standard deductions, so they're getting no tax benefit. They're not getting a deduction. In this provision, the qualified charitable distribution, or what we call QCDs, they can transfer directly from their IRA to the charity. Not only, now they still don't get a tax deduction, but they get something way better, a tax exclusion. It's excluded from income. Remember before I talked about the fundamental principle in all good tax planning is to always get that money out at the lowest rates. This gets that money out. Money you were going to donate anyway, gets it out of your IRA, zero tax, tax-free. The only downside to this QCD is that it's not available to enough people. It's only available to IRA owners, not from plans like 401ks. Only IRA owners age 70 and a half or older, or IRA beneficiaries age 70 and a half or older. It's limited to 100,000 a year, but that's a pretty good limit for most people. And it's only available from IRAs, a direct transfer. It has to be a direct transfer to the charity. And it can even offset the income from your required minimum distributions. So it's age 70 and a half, even though the RMD, required minimum distribution age, is 72, this age stayed at 70 and a half. And you have to be 70 and a half. If you turn 70 and a half tomorrow, you can't do it today. So you actually have to be 70 and a half. So that's, I think that's a great provision. If you're going to give anyway, give that IRA money and do it as a direct transfer. What a way to bring down this taxable account at absolutely no tax cost, benefit to the charity, benefit to you, and you're giving the right way. I'll give you a simple example. If you normally give $10,000 to a charity, you're getting no tax benefit out of it. If you do a $10,000 QCD and you're at a 24% tax bracket, you'll save $2,400, real dollars, right off your tax bill just by giving the same amount this way. The only loser is Uncle Sam. Now, you asked me about this other thing I call the mega QCD.
Yeah, and this probably doesn't apply to a large number of people, but for the one or two people in the audience that it does apply to, a pretty significant savings opportunity.
Yeah, don't look up mega QCD. I totally made that up. I had to call it something. Mega QCD. For this year, now I sound like an infomercial, Peter. You know, for this year and this year only, you get a one-time shot. It was actually last year too, but the break from the Stimulus Act ends after this year. You're allowed to deduct charitable gift, cash gifts. Oh, and with the QCD, donor advised funds don't qualify. They don't qualify for this either. It has to be a direct gift to a charitable organization. Same thing here. For direct cash gifts, you can get 100% of AGI, adjusted gross income deduction. It used to be much lower, 60%. It goes back to that next year. So what you could do, if you just heard me talk about a QCD and you're saying to yourself, you know, I have a large IRA, that would be good to fit my charitable needs, but I don't qualify. Why? Well, maybe I'm not 70 and a half, or maybe my money's in a 401k, or maybe I want to give more than the 100,000. I got a deal for you. For only for the rest of this year, you can do what I call a mega QCD. Let's say you have a giant IRA, like you said, Peter. It doesn't apply to a lot of people, but some people could really make a dent. Let's say you want to give $1 million, and you just heard me say, wow, why not give the IRA money and save my appreciated property for my kids who can get a step up in basis? So you take $1 million out of your IRA. That raises your AGI by $1 million. But now you could turn around and donate $1 million to a charity and get an itemized deduction because you're way over the standard deduction limit. That can pretty much offset all the tax and get that money out almost tax-free from your IRA. Only available for the rest of this year. Don't do that before 59 and a half, because if you take the money out before 59 and a half, even though you don't have the 70.5 rule, you could have a 10% early distribution penalty. And don't do it from a Roth. That's already taxed. We want tax breaks. We don't want to give money we already paid tax on.
We are speaking with America's leading IRA expert, as named by the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Ed Slott, and so many other strategies and solutions that I want to talk to you about and get your opinion on, Ed, and identify where more people, more savers and investors can proactively save money simply for time purposes. Wanted to get your opinion on one last thing. What do you think about the discussion, the comment from Janet Yellen on the proposal to tax unrealized capital gains? Is that ever going to go anywhere?
I think that's ridiculous. It's been tried for over 100 years. Step up in basis, that's what we're talking about. I don't know if it's the unrealized or the step up in basis. They're kind of similar in some aspects, but I don't know if that's what you meant. The step up in basis is 100 years old. I don't think that's ever going away, because what always seems to happen when the rubber hits the road and they get ready to enact it or even put it in a bill, they start realizing, oh, this is going to hit a lot of unintended regular type taxpayers in their homes and businesses, people with money, property built up in a small business, property, plant, equipment. You're just hitting all the wrong people. It's always the way to me. Whenever they want to do something that they say will get the really rich people, they throw out this net. The rich people, the big fish, they're already swimming in another ocean by then, and they capture all the small fish. So it always gets hit. I always believe these things always fall on the regular working people, unintended targets. So I hope that doesn't pass. Plus, the idea of taxing unrealized wealth that you're talking about, that's like doing an estate tax every year to find out their net worth. Now, these billionaires, can you imagine, where their holdings are all over the world. Half of the time you can't even find them. It would take IRS maybe 10 years to figure out what they're even worth. And they have to do this every year and then tax it. And then how is it going to look politically when one year their net worth, and they have an army of accountants and lawyers that can make their net worth almost look like a loss. And then the government is going to have to issue billions of dollars in refund checks to these billionaires. How would that look like? How would that look politically? I don't think this is a workable thing. They're just chasing after these so-called wealthy, rich people. There's not enough of them. You may have seen Elon Musk's made a comment, which I agree with. He said, once you run out of other people's money, they're going to come after yours. Well, they're not going to get their money, so all that's left is yours.
Well, larger inheritances, more control, less taxes, common goals for most proactive savers and investors. Ed Slott has been helping people achieve those things for years. And I think the key to that, Ed, in a large part, is some smart, proactive tax planning. Thank you for joining us and providing your insight on how more of us can get proactive and rethink how we're handling our taxes.
Well, thanks for having me on the program and having my website flashing on behind you there. I was going to say earlier, I said, well, that looks familiar. And then it hit me. Oh, there's my book. There's our 2-day program. This guy's, anyway, thanks for having me on the program.
Always a pleasure, Ed. We appreciate the time. Look forward to having you back here in the near future.
Okay, thanks.
Well, Ron, a fantastic interview there with Ed Slott. He certainly knows his stuff. He goes about a mile a minute, but if anybody wants more information, you can help them decipher that, sort through it, and determine what strategies are right for them to save on taxes.
Yeah, I hope, ladies and gentlemen, everybody who stayed tuned has really found it to be of interest. He's a great speaker, but more than that, he's got knowledge that just is encyclopedic in nature. So here's our offer to you. If anything he said has made sense to you, if anything I've said has made sense to you, including how to buy gifts for kids, give us a call at 616-301-2581, 616-301-2581. We can help you with this important thing called retirement income planning and dealing with whatever's coming down the road. We can help you with that, to navigate it, to give you the best option and possibility of creating an income retirement plan that not only fits you, but it'll give you that blessed thing called peace of mind. So give us a call if peace of mind is important to you, 616-301-2581. Other than that, you have a blessed weekend. Have a blessed Sunday. I'll talk to you next week.
Tune in to Ron Courser's full radio program, A Course to Retirement, Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. on WOOD, and visit roncourser.com for many valuable resources, including other great episodes of Your Course to Retirement.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor.
Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group is solely an indication that the financial advisor has attended training provided by Ed Slott and Company, passed biannual examinations on material covered at conferences and in webinars, and met other membership requirements, and does not constitute an endorsement of any kind. Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group members pay a fee for the educational programs that allow them to be included in the Ed Slott's Elite IRA Advisor Group. Membership does not guarantee investment success. Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Annuity guarantees are based solely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing company. Withdrawals of growth from annuities may be taxable as ordinary income in the year it is taken. Individuals should review contracts for specific details of the product's features and costs. Early withdrawals may subject the owner to penalties, fees, or taxes. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.